I look cool doing this.
What's cracking, guys? Omar Issoff here, showing you my current lower body mobility routine. And before I go on, I just want to quickly go over what mobility is, or what your goal should be. Really, when I think about mobility, you need to customize it for yourself. So first of all, you have to determine what you want to become mobile for. Are you going to be a gymnast? Do you want to do the splits? Or do you want to just merely squat to depth properly? You're going to find weak areas, areas that are tight, inhibited, work on those areas, test and then retest. So test before you do mobility work, do specific mobility exercises, and then retest to see if they work. If they worked, then that's exactly what you should be doing. All we want to do is get mobile to perform the exercises we need to perform in our training routine. So the first thing I like to do is, and once again, I got to preface this works for me, what I need to do where I'm tight. You know, I have that slight TFL strain, so this is what I do. First, I do an anterior loaded squat. Basically a goblet squat where I hold the bottom position. I kind of bounce afterwards at the bottom of the hole just to see how it feels, how my knees, ankles, and hips, how are they operating. From there, then I evaluate what I need to do on that day. So for me, my hip flexor, that TFL area, it needs to be stretched. This is my favorite stretch to do for this area. There's all kinds of, static stretches you can do. I prefer more dynamic stretch where I'm actually moving. So you attach a band, put it below your glute, and what you're going to do remaining upright as possible, you squeeze the glute and attempt to lean slightly forward, rocking ever so slightly back and forth. This you should really feel. What's great about the green band, it offers more resistance, so it allows you to get a greater stretch. For all these exercises, at the end, I'm going to make sure in the description, I list everything, what I did, and how many reps, how many sets, how long I held everything. And I can't state it enough. You find the areas that you're tight, you find the mobility exercises you need to do and customize it for you. I'm showing you, by and large, what would work for a lot of people. Guys that sit down a lot, tight hips, maybe, ankle mobility issues, lower back, the hips seem to be locked up. This works great. Moving forward, we got the hip capsule mobility. Your hip capsule itself, if it's tight, it can really inhibit your squat pattern and also your deadlift. So what I like to do is attach a green band in an X pattern around my ankle. This is going to allow for something called traction, where the hip capsule itself is going to be opened up. You're going to hold the stretch for at least a minute. Really feel it in the hip, not the ankle itself. If you feel in the ankle, you'll have to adjust where the band is. You should feel the hip opening up, almost like it's being stretched out of the socket. Not that it should be stretched out of the socket, but that's, the sensation you should be feeling. I'm showing you guys also, I start with the big two that really helped me with my hip problems. A solid, hip flexor stretch, as well as opening up that hip capsule itself. So you do both sides. Moving on now, it's gonna get a little funky. Not gonna lie, it's gonna get a little bit weird, but we're gonna move forward with this, move through. Spine hip mobility, a modified cat to camel. What I do differently, I also tilt my pelvis. I feel a greater stretch. I make sure also when I'm doing this that I'm keeping the core tight. When I flex in, when I have spinal flexion, I'm keeping the core tight. This one, you guys probably, if you're way back, playback from 2011, you know this from one of my first mobility routines. Really great if you sit down a lot, your lower back kind of gets jammed up along with the hips where they can't function properly. Moving side to side, you'll feel it slightly opening up. This one is a great test right here for me to evaluate how my squat depth feels for the low bar squat. So I assume, once again, a wide squat stance, down on all fours. I push the hips back. I see what type of butt wink I have, what that feels like, how low can I go, how my hip flexors feel at the bottom. After doing that, I felt, what, my glute med, which is definitely correlated to my TFL and to my hip flexor itself, it felt a little tight. Felt like I wasn't able to get to the depth I wanted to achieve, so I got out that lacrosse ball. I'm gonna roll on that glute med on the outside of your butt itself, and I'm gonna lean down on it and apply pressure using the lacrosse ball. So I hold it for about, a few seconds on a tight area, move on, try and find another area that feels a little bit inhibited, and really I only spend about maybe 30 seconds to a minute on this either side. The peanut. If you guys know anything about what I recommend, This one for the deadlift or for thoracic mobility, that big, buzzword thoracic extension, the peanut is my favorite mobility device. All it is, 2 lacrosse balls taped together. You lie down on it, so the vertebrae is in the middle. You're gonna apply pressure, flex up with your abs, and then shift 1 inch forward along your vertebrae, the peanut itself. So you're slowly shifting up along your spine. You'll really feel this in your erectors, which is exactly what's used when you low bar squat and when you deadlift. You also can do some shoulder mobility by allowing that peanut to be on your spine and trying to extend your arms backwards, which will help you with that low bar squat position, putting your arms back there. Last thing I did as a test, quick test, was ankle mobility. I didn't do anything for my ankles because when I tested it, I was able to achieve, my knee going past my toes by several inches, which is all I really need for my squat that I do. So I tested it out doing the wall ankle dorsiflexion test. Felt great, so I didn't need to do anything else. Finally, what I like to do is retest. Okay, so I assume that same squat pattern. I don't fully lock out. I see how it feels. It feels great, feels a lot better. My ankles already were feeling fine, but my hips and my knees, everything felt opened up, as well as my lower back. It felt a lot better. That's the video, guys. Be sure to like it and leave a comment. I'll be seeing all you guys, my rascals, in the next video. Peace!